Hey, so I've been having a lot of trouble with turning the camera on and speaking, and I really want to get over this. And I sort of started brainstorming just something to do, and I decided that I was going to read a book. So, what we're reading is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. I will put some info up on the screen here about it. Please make sure to check out the original source. Part of the reason I chose this book is because an audiobook of it was already available for free on YouTube. So I figured no harm, no foul. And I'm going to use it, one, to learn, because I want to hold myself accountable for learning and growing. And I would like to begin reading. So, so this is the foreword. Your brain is involved in everything you do, including how you think, how you feel, how you act, and how well you get along with other people. It's the organ of personality, character, intelligence, and every decision you make. From my brain imaging work with tens of thousands of patients worldwide over the past 20 years, it is very clear to me that when your brain works right, you work right. And when your brain is troubled, you are much more likely to have trouble in your life. With a healthier brain, you are happier, physically healthier, wealthier, wiser, and just make better decisions, which helps you be more successful and live longer. When the brain is not healthy for whatever reason, such as a head injury or past emotional trauma, people are sadder, sicker, poorer, less wise, and less successful. It is easy to understand how trauma can hurt the brain, but researchers have also seen how negative thinking and bad programming from our past can also affect it. For example, I grew up with an older brother who was intent on shoving me around. The constant tension and fear I felt then led to a higher level of anxiety, anxious thinking patterns, and always being on guard, never knowing when something bad was about to happen. This fear caused long-term overactivity in my brain's fear centers until I was able to work through it later on in life. In Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, my colleague, Dr. Joe Dispenza, is your guide to optimize both the hardware and software of your brain to help you reach a new state of mind. His new book is based on solid science, and he continues to speak with kindness and wisdom, as he did in the award-winning film What the Bleep Do We Know, and in his first book, Evolve Your Brain. Even though I think of the brain like a computer with both hardware and software, the hardware, the actual physical functioning of the brain, in parentheses, is not separate from the software or the constant programming and reshaping that occurs throughout our lives. They have a dramatic impact on each other. Most of us have had trauma of some kind in our lives and live with the day-to-day scars that have resulted. Cleaning out those experiences that have become part of the brain structure can be incredibly healing. Of course, engaging in brain-healthy habits such as proper diet and exercise and certain brain nutrients is critical to the brain working right. But in addition, your moment-by-moment thoughts exert a powerful healing effect on the brain, or they can work to your detriment. The same is true for past experiences that can become wired in the brain. The study we do at the Amen clinics is called brain SPECT imaging. SPECT, single photon emission computed tomography, is a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow and activity patterns. It is different from CT scans or MRI, which examine the brain's anatomy, because SPECT looks at how the brain functions. Our SPECT work, now over 70,000 scans, has taught us so many important life lessons about the brain, such as brain injuries can ruin people's lives, alcohol is not a health food and often shows significant damage on SPECT scans, a number of the medications people routinely take, such as common anti-anxiety medications, are not good for the brain, and diseases like Alzheimer's actually start in the brain decades before people have any symptoms. SPECT scans have also taught us that as a society, we need to have much more love and respect for the brain, and that allowing children to play contact sports, like football and hockey, is not a smart idea. One of the most exciting lessons I've learned is that people can literally change their brains and change their lives by engaging in regular brain healthy habits, such as correcting negative beliefs and using meditative processes such as those discussed by Dr. Dispenza. In one series of studies we published, the practice of meditation, such as what Dr. Dispenza recommends, boosted blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, the most thoughtful part of the human brain. After 8 weeks of daily meditation, the prefrontal cortex at rest was stronger, and the memories of our subjects were better, too. There are so many ways to heal and optimize the brain. My hope is that, like me, you will develop brain envy and want a better functioning brain. The brain imaging work we do has changed everything in my own life. Shortly after I started ordering SPECT scans in 1991, I decided to look at my own brain. I was 37 years old. When I saw the toxic, bumpy appearance, I knew it was not healthy. All of my life I've been someone who rarely drank alcohol, never smoked, and never used an illegal drug. Then why did my brain look so bad? Before I really understood about brain health, I'd had many bad brain habits. I ate lots of fast food, drank diet soda like she was my best friend, often slept only 4 to 5 hours at night, and carried unexamined hurts from the past. I didn't exercise, felt chronically stressed, and carried an extra 30 pounds. What I didn't know was hurting me, and not just a little. My last scan looks healthier and much younger than it did 20 years earlier. My brain has literally aged backwards. That's how changeable your brain is too, when you make up your mind to take care of it properly. After seeing my original scan, I wanted my brain to be better. This book will help yours be better too. I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I did. That was from Daniel G. Amen, or Amen, I'm not sure, MD, author of Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. If for any reason at all you want to support me, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account, and I'll leave some links in the descriptions. Thank you if you do. I would love it. So, without further ado, let's get into the introduction now. And I might stop after the introduction because, yeah, that's going to be a lot for me starting off. So, that might be it for today, the forward and the introduction. So, let's go. The greatest habit you can ever break is the habit of being yourself. I don't know if I looked into the camera earlier. Hello. Alright. When I think about all the books on creating the life we desire, I realize that many of us are still looking for approaches that are grounded in sound scientific evidence, methods that truly work. But already new research into the brain and body, the mind and consciousness, and a quantum leap in our understanding of physics is suggesting expanded possibilities on how to move toward what we innately know is our real potential. As a practicing chiropractor who runs a busy integrated health clinic, and as an educator in the fields of neuroscience, brain function, biology, and brain chemistry, I've been privileged to be at the forefront of some of this research, not just by studying the fields mentioned above, but also by observing the effects of this new science once applied by common people like you and me. That's the moment when the possibilities of this new science become reality. As a consequence, I've witnessed some remarkable changes in individuals' health and quality of life when they truly change their minds. Over the last several years, I've had the opportunity to interview a host of people who overcame significant health conditions that were considered either terminal or permanent. Per the contemporary model of medicine, these recoveries were labeled spontaneous remissions. However, upon my extensive examination of their inner journeys, it became apparent to me that there was a strong element of mind involved, and their physical changes weren't so spontaneous after all. This discovery furthered my postgraduate studies in brain imaging, neuroplasticity, epigenetics, and psychoneuroimmunology. I simply figured that something had to be happening in the brain and body that could be zeroed in on and then replicated. In this book, I want to share some of what I learned along the way and show you, by exploring how mind and matter are interrelated, how you can apply these principles not only to your body, but to any aspect of your life. Many readers of my first book, Evolve Your Brain, The Science of Changing Your Mind, voiced the same honest and heartfelt request, along with a fair amount of positive feedback, such as the person who wrote, "I really liked your book. I read it twice. It had lots of science and was very thorough and inspiring. But can you tell me how to do it? How do I evolve my brain?" In response, I began teaching a workshop series on the practical steps anyone can take to make changes at the level of mind and body that will lead to lasting results. Consequently, I've seen people experience unexplainable healings, release old mental and emotional wounds, resolve so-called impossible difficulties, create new opportunities, and experience wonderful wealth, just to name a few. You will meet some of those people in these pages. It's not necessary that you read my first book to digest the material in this one, but if you have been exposed to my work, I wrote Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself to serve as a practical how-to companion to evolve your brain. It is my earnest objective to make this new book simple and easy to understand. There will be times, though, that I will have to give you bits of knowledge to act as the forerunner to a concept that I want to develop. The purpose is to build a realistic working model of personal transformation that will help you understand how we can change. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a product of one of my passions, a sincere effort to demystify the mystical so that every person understands that we have within our reach all we need to make significant changes in our lives. This is a time when not only do we want to know, but we want to know how. How do we apply and personalize both emerging scientific concepts and age-old wisdom to succeed at living a more enriched life? When you and I can connect the dots of what science is discovering about the nature of reality, and when we give ourselves permission to apply those principles in our day-to-day existence, then each of us becomes both a mystic and a scientist in our own life. So I invite you to experiment with everything that you learn in this book and to objectively observe the results. What I mean is that if you make the effort to change your inner world of thoughts and feelings, your external environment should begin to give you feedback to show you that your mind has had an effect on your outer world. Why else would you do it? Pausing from the book for a minute. I hope that over the course of reading this book I can apply some of it and that it will also show through in the readings. I guess I just decided now too that I'm going to pause the book sometimes and give my thoughts on it rather than do a straight read through. That'll probably save me time from having to edit as well if I don't try to be perfect, if I just let you see me be imperfect, which I think is part of the reason of putting myself in front of the camera, is just to get over it. So, yeah, decided that right now. Anyways, back to the book. If you take intellectual information that you learn as a philosophy and then initiate that knowledge into your life by applying it enough times until you master it, you will ultimately move from being a philosopher to an initiate to a master. Stay tuned. There is sound scientific evidence that this is possible. I do ask you up front to keep an open mind so that we can build step by step the concepts I outline in this book. All of this information is for you to do something with. Otherwise, it's just good dinner conversation, isn't it? Once you can open your mind to the way things really are and let go of your conditioned beliefs with which you are accustomed to framing reality, you should see the fruits of your efforts. That is my wish for you. The information in these pages is there to inspire you to prove to yourself that you are a divine creator. We should never wait for science to give us permission to do the uncommon. If we do, then we are turning science into another religion. We should be brave enough to contemplate our lives, do what we thought was outside the box, and do it repeatedly. When we do that, we are on our way to a greater level of personal power. True empowerment comes when we start to look deeply at our beliefs. We may find their roots in the conditioning of religion, culture, society, education, family, the media, and even our genes. The latter being imprinted by the sensory experiences of our current lives as well as untold generations. Then we weigh those old ideas against some new paradigms that may serve us better. Times are changing. As individuals awaken to a greater reality, we are part of a much larger sea change. Our current systems and models of reality are breaking down, and it is time for something new to emerge. Across the board, our models for politics, economics, religion, science, education, medicine, and our relationship with the environment are all showing a different landscape than just 10 years ago. Letting go of the outmoded and embracing the new sounds easy. But as I pointed out in Evolve Your Brain, much of what we have learned and experienced has been incorporated into our biological self, and we wear it like a garment. But we also know that what is true today might not be true tomorrow. Just as we have come to question our perception of atoms as solid pieces of matter, reality and our interaction with it is a progression of ideas and beliefs. We also know that to leave the familiar life that we have grown accustomed to and waltz into something new is like a salmon swimming upstream. It takes effort. And frankly, it's uncomfortable. Maybe that's what I'm doing here, to pause from the book again. Hopefully so. Because it takes effort and it's uncomfortable. And to top it off, ridicule, marginalization, opposition, and denigration from those who cling to what they think they know greet us along the way. Who, with such an unconventional bent, is willing to meet such adversity in the name of some concept they cannot embrace with their senses, yet which is alive in their minds? How many times in history have individuals who were considered heretics and fools, and thus took the abuse of the unexceptional, emerged as geniuses, saints, or masters? Will you dare to be an original? Change is a choice instead of a reaction. It seems that human nature is such that we balk at changing until things get really bad, and we're so uncomfortable that we can no longer go on with business as usual. This is as true for an individual as it is for a society. We wait for crisis, trauma, loss, disease, and tragedy before we get down to looking at who we are, what we are doing, how we are living, what we are feeling, and what we believe or know in order to embrace true change. Often it takes a worst-case scenario for us to begin making changes that support our health, relationships, career, family, and future. My message is, why wait? We can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering, or we can evolve into a state of joy and inspiration. Most embrace the former. To go with the latter, we just have to make up our minds that change will probably entail a bit of discomfort, some inconvenience, a break from a predictable routine, and a period of not knowing. Most of us are already familiar with the temporary discomfort of not knowing. We stumbled through our early efforts to read until this skill became second nature. Funny that that is the example. I used to feel like I was a good reader. I'm sure some of it's nervousness. Anyways. Okay. Stop doing that. When we first practiced the violin or the drums, our parents wished they could send us to a soundproof room. Pity the hapless patient who has his blood drawn by a medical student who has the requisite knowledge but still lacks the finesse that she will only gain through practice. Absorbing knowledge, or knowing, and then gaining practical experience by applying what you learned until a particular skill became ingrained in you, which is knowing how, is probably how you acquired most of the abilities that now feel like a part of your being, knowingness. In much the same way, learning how to change your life involves knowledge and the application of that knowledge. That is why this book is divided into 3 overarching sections. Throughout parts 1 and 2, I will build ideas in sequence, forming a bigger and broader model of understanding for you to personalize. If some ideas seem repetitive, they are there to remind you about something that I don't want you to forget. Repetition reinforces the circuits in your brain and forms more neural connections, so that in your weakest hour, you don't talk yourself out of greatness. When you ease into part 3 of the book with a sound knowledge base, you can experience for yourself the truth of what you learned earlier. So it sounds like parts 1 and 2 are a lot of laying the groundwork, and part 3 is will be where the magic happens. Part 1, the science of you. Our exploration We'll start with an overview of philosophical and scientific paradigms related to the latest research about the nature of reality, who you are, why change has been so difficult for so many, and what is possible for you as a human being. Part 1 will be an easy read, I promise. We'll see. Chapter 1, the Quantum You, introduces you to a bit of quantum physics, but don't be alarmed. I start there because it is important that you begin to embrace the concept that your subjective mind has an effect on your objective world. The observer effect in quantum physics states that where you direct your attention is where you place your energy. As a consequence, you affect the material world, which, by the way, is made mostly of energy. If you entertain that idea even for a moment, you might start focusing on what you want instead of what you don't want. And you might even find yourself thinking, if an atom is 99.99999% energy and a 0.00001% physical substance, then I'm actually more nothing than something. So why do I keep my attention on that small percentage of the physical world when I am so much more? Is defining my present reality but by what I perceive with my senses the biggest limitation that I have? In chapters 2 through 4, we will look at what it means to change, to become greater than the environment, the body, and time. You've probably entertained the idea that your thoughts create your life. But in chapter 2, Overcoming the Environment, I discuss how if you allow the outer world to control how you think and feel, your external environment is patterning circuits in your brain to make you think equal to everything familiar to you. The result is that you create more of the same. You hardwire your brain to reflect the problems, personal conditions, and circumstances in your life. So to change, you must be greater than all things physical in your life. Chapter 3. Overcoming the Body continues to look at how we unconsciously live by a set of memorized behaviors, thoughts, and emotional reactions, all running like computer programs behind the scenes of our conscious awareness. That's why it is not enough to think positive, because most of who we are might reside subconsciously as negativity in the body. By the end of this book, you will know how to enter into the operating system of the subconscious mind and make permanent changes where those programs exist. Chapter 4, Overcoming Time, examines how we either live in the anticipation of future events or repeatedly revisit past memories, or both, until the body begins to believe it is living in a time other than the present moment. The latest research supports the notion that we have a natural ability to change the brain and body by thought alone, so that it looks biologically like some future event has already happened. Because you can make thought more real than anything else, you can change who you are from brain cell to gene, given the right understanding. When you learn how to use your attention and access the present, you will enter through the door to the quantum field where all potentials exist. Chapter 5, Survival versus Creation, illustrates the distinction between living in survival and living in creation. Living in survival entails living in stress and functioning as a materialist, believing that the outer world is more real than the inner world. When you are under the gun of the fight or flight nervous system, being run by its cocktail of intoxicating chemicals, you are programmed to be concerned only about your body, the things or people in your environment, and your obsession with time. Your brain and body are out of balance. You are living a predictable life. However, when you are truly in the elegant state of creation, you are no body, no thing, no time. You forget about yourself. You become pure consciousness, free from the chains of the identity that needs the outer reality to remember who it thinks it is. Part 2, Your Brain and Meditation. In Chapter 6, 3 Brains, Thinking to Doing to Being, you will embrace the concept that you have 3 brains that allow you to move from thinking to doing to being. Even better, when you focus your attention to the exclusion of your environment, your body, and time, you can easily move from thinking to being without having to do anything. In that state of mind, your brain does not distinguish between what is happening in the outer world of reality and what is happening in the inner world of your mind. Thus, if you can mentally rehearse a desired experience via thought alone, you will experience the emotions of that event before it is physically manifested. Now you are moving into a new state of being, because your mind and body are working as one. When you begin to feel like some potential future reality is happening to you in the moment that you are focusing on it, you are rewriting your automatic habits, attitudes, and other unwanted subconscious programs. Chapter 7, The Gap, explores how to break free from the emotions that you've memorized, which have become your personality, and how to close the gap between who you really are in your inner private world and how you appear in the outer social world. We all reach a certain point when we stop learning and realize that nothing external can take away those feelings from our past. If you can predict the feeling of every experience in your life, there is no room for anything new to occur, because you are viewing your life from the past instead of the future. This is the conjuncture point where the soul either breaks free or falls into oblivion. You will learn to liberate your energy in the form of emotions, and thus narrow the gap between how you appear and who you are. Ultimately, you will create transparency. When how you appear is who you are truly free. I'm going to repeat it just because that one rang true for me a little bit. I think I'm always wanting to learn how to be myself authentically in front of people, which is part of what this is about, is wanting to feel like polished and presentable without feeling fake or performative. And I know that I'll feel better if I feel like I can be myself, even though that often seems like being uncomfortable in front of people at first. So, anyways, gonna reread that line. This is the juncture point where the soul either breaks free or falls into oblivion. You will learn to liberate your energy in the form of emotions, and thus narrow the gap between how you appear and who you are. Ultimately, you will create transparency. When how you appear is who you are truly free. I really like that. Part 2 concludes with Chapter 8, Meditation, Demystifying the Mystical, and Waves of Your Future, in which my purpose is to demystify meditation so that you know what you are doing and why. Discussing brainwave technology made simple, I show you how your brain changes electromagnetically when you are focused versus when you are in an aroused state due to stressors in your life. You will learn that the true purpose of meditation is to get beyond the analytical mind and enter into the subconscious mind so you can make real and permanent changes. If you get up from meditation as the same person who sat down, nothing has happened to you on any level. When you meditate and connect to something greater, you can create and then memorize such coherence between your thoughts and feelings that nothing in your outer reality, no thing, no person, no condition at any place or time could move you from that level of energy. Now you are mastering your environment, your body, and time. Part 3. Stepping towards your new destiny. All of the information in parts 1 and 2 is provided in order to equip you with the necessary knowledge so that when you demonstrate or apply this information in part 3, which supplies the how-to, you will have a direct experience of what you've been taught. Part 3 is all about applying yourself in an actual discipline, a mindful exercise to use in your daily life. It's a step-by-step meditation process created so you can actually do something with the theories given to you. By the way, did your mind balk when I mentioned that multi-step process? If so, it's not what you think. You will learn a sequence of actions, but soon you will experience them as one or two simple steps. After all, you probably perform multiple actions every time you prepare to drive your car. For example, you adjust the seat, put on your seatbelt, check the mirrors, start the car, turn on the headlights, look around, use a turn signal, apply the brake, put the car in drive or reverse, apply pressure to the gas pedal, and so on. Ever since you learned to drive, you have executed this procedure easily and automatically. I assure you the same will be true once you learn each step in part 3. You may be asking yourself, Why do I need to read parts 1 and 2? I'll just jump to part 3. I know, I'd probably be thinking the same. I decided to offer the relevant knowledge in the first 2 parts of the text so that when you get to the third section, nothing will be left to conjecture, dogma, or speculation. When you begin the steps of the meditation, you'll know exactly what you're doing and why. When you comprehend the what and the why, the more you will know, and thus the more you will know how when the time comes. Therefore, you will have more power and intention behind the practical experience of truly changing your mind. By using the steps in part 3, you may be more prone to accept your innate ability to change so-called impossible situations in your life. You might even give yourself permission to entertain potential realities that you never considered prior to your exposure to these new concepts. You might just begin to do the uncommon. That is my aim for you by the time you finish this book. So if you can resist the temptation to jump ahead to part 3, I promise that when you get there, you'll be quite empowered by what you learn. I've seen this approach work throughout the world in the series of 3 workshops I lead. When people gain the right knowledge in such a way that they understand it completely, and when they have the opportunity for effective instruction to apply what they comprehend, then like magic, they can see the fruits of their efforts in the form of changes that serve as feedback in their lives. Part 3 will give you the meditative skills to change something within your mind and body, and to produce an effect outside of you. Once you can notice what you did inside of you that produced an outcome outside of you, you'll do it again. When a new experience manifests in your life, you'll embrace the energy you feel in the form of an elevated emotion such as empowerment, awe, or immense gratitude. And that energy will drive you to do it again and again. Now you are on the path to true evolution. Each meditation step delineated in part 3 is associated with a piece of meaningful information presented earlier in the book. Because you'll have cultivated the meaning behind exactly what you're doing, there should be no ambiguity that might cause you to lose your vision. Like many skills you've learned, in the beginning, it may take all your conscious effort to stay focused as you learn how to meditate to evolve your brain. In the process, you must restrain yourself from your typical behaviors and maintain your thoughts on what you're doing, without wandering to extraneous stimuli, so your actions are aligned with your intention. Just as you might have experienced when you first learned to cook Thai food, play golf, dance the salsa, or drive a stick shift, the newness of the endeavor will require you to practice this ability continually, training both mind and body to memorize each step. Remember, most types of instruction are formatted in bite-sized chunks so that the mind and body can begin to work together. Once you get it, all the individual steps you kept reviewing merge into one smooth process. The methodical, linear approach seamlessly flows into a holistic, effortless, unified demonstration. This is the point of personal ownership. At times, the effort this takes can be tedious, but if you persist with a certain amount of will and energy, in time, you'll enjoy the results. When you know that you know how to do something, you're on your way to mastering it. I'm overjoyed to say that many people around the world are already using the knowledge in this book to make demonstrable. I've always struggled with that word. Demonstrable? I know it's demonstrate. Demonstrable changes in their lives. It is my sincere passion that you too break the habit of being yourself and create the new life you desire. Let's get started. ... It seems like this could be an interesting book to follow along with. I know that I'm not a professional reader, so if you listen, I appreciate it. It is available for free elsewhere, so you're more than welcome to go to that or to buy the book. I don't want to undercut the book by any means. If you'd like, I'd love to prop it up. That is the goal. So in many ways, I'm doing this for myself, for self-accountability, but also it'll be interesting to sort of apply and learn out loud with a lot of the things that are going to be presented in the book. I hope it works. I hope that I get better at And I've watched some of his videos. I've watched interviews with him, which made me interested in it in the first place. So, yeah. Toodles.